Um, this is I'm trying to get on track in terms of the oral history, and often have sort of strayed into areas where I can't do this in numerical order, but I'm going to try to throw this back so that I can. Uh, I'll go back to 88, 89, 90, and pick up some of the interesting 91. But the essential thing is the um, the Fox to Moisey reels tell you what was going on, and then in in September in September of '93, everything breaks apart. So essentially, we'll start with that oral history part there. I'm trying to tell a whole story. There's 100 or so pieces to this. You got 15 minutes each time. So if you pick up one place, uh, you lose something. In any case, I have a professional interviewer here with me and also a lawyer from Brazil. So um, I will begin by taking a question. See if I can answer. Okay, go ahead.
Judge Wine
Judge
orders
one.
you, he orders you not to speak. When
Mm.
was this?
Well, he ordered me in the injunction, and that injunction was written by Wyatt Terran Combs. I assume it came from September 29th, and he orders me not to speak with my lawyers, which is interesting because that continues throughout the entire period.
Why?
My lawyers,
Why?
well, the main purpose was to shut me up, and he did a pretty good job of it because that order was so tight. You couldn't put up a defense, and finally, a few years later, Judge Wine realizes that, well, if you'd like me to put me in contempt, which is what he probably would like to do, he would have a hard time doing it if I couldn't put up a defense. And so on the 29th, this meant I couldn't talk to my lawyers at all. At the risk of, there were two parts to that concept. One, if you talk to your lawyers, and at that time I had in September 29 only one lawyer, and then I added Alan Morrison at the later on, and and a group of lawyers from, I'm sure, the background in the background from litigation group. But so he orders me not to talk with my lawyers on September 29th, 1993, which is actually the ruling for the unknown defendant who becomes me, and from then on it's deposition, 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 and I'm on the 6th I'm ordered for a deposition. On the 7th of the next month I'm ordered for a deposition as well. So we go that far and continue.
Okay, so what does the order have to do with the events of 993?
Of 93, the events of 93. Well, the order itself means that I have to keep my mouth shut. I can't talk to my lawyers, and as you know, at this point, Fox really has, there's no way that Fox has gotten into reading any documents, and that's an interesting part. Now, as to knowing something about the situation, he knows enough. And so, from the point of view of defending me, it's not for a couple of years down the road that Judge Wine defines what he means. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, well, Judge Wine, you really can't do this. You can't deprive, I mean, I think it's the Sixth Amendment, but you can't keep a guy from having a lawyer and at least talking with the lawyer, and not just about the rain, but if let's say something is pointing in your direction, and it was always contempt, or it was pretty close to that. So in September 29th, September 29th of 1993, and that's when everything hit the fan. So.
Okay, and in November 1993. Describe this CID from the Justice Department.
Okay, the Justice Department was looking into fire-safe cigarettes, and fire-safe cigarettes is not like safe cigarettes. So some of you out there who don't know the difference, and there are people who simply morph this into this idea of fire-safe cigarettes, which was a concept going back into the 1930s, which people were burning up their apartments and dying. So, and I know a lot about this, and I would be very happy. But this civil investigation, this CID, which is a civil investigation from I think it stemmed from a character, a congressman subcommittee. Congressman looking into fire-safe cigarettes, and that was Moakley, I think his name was. And he wasn't the first, but at least at that time he was looking into that with the FDA, and Fox was in contact with the FDA and with the Justice Department, and with that idea in mind of we were under a injunctive relief or at least we were in an injunction. And they had injunctive relief, and we simply wanted to let Fox wanted to make sure that the Justice Department got in there before a temporary injunction came in, because in a temporary it would be a little higher level. In any case, from that point we go into the rest of the year, and we end on the end of the year. And at that end of the year, Fox and I were sitting around and wondering when the Justice Department was coming in. And from our point of view, we had hoped that they would come in. And little did we know, but there was something else going on, and I pieced together something later on. But in any case, Lowell Bergman appeared in December, and he was there in Louisville for a different purpose. And I think something was going rogue outside of our own definition of what we knew. And what we knew was going on. And so we did talk with, he came to the office in December, just around Christmas, and he was looking up somebody to interview, and didn't divulge who he was looking for, but it seems that was fairly well common later on. I mean, we knew later on. Okay, so in December, we turned the whole year, and Judge Wine won't entertain hearings on the injunction in 1993, but finally, he asked for briefs on the injunctive relief, certainly by tying me down and saying you can't speak to your lawyers. There was a big mistake, and a lot of lawyers would probably have to agree. You just simply can't say, well, you can't talk to your lawyers, especially if the finger's pointing at you. And certainly under the circumstances, so-called documents taken, even though returned, and that was a theory, basically, and a book written as well and returned. There were only 2 books that were out there. One of them had been in the hands of Fox, but after the same kind of situation where it was sealed, and they got that as well as depositions, and so we had depositions on up through December, and the the days went by, and we kept waiting for the Justice Department, and Fox was communicating with the FDA commissioner, and we kept waiting for them to come in. And the year turned into a temporary restraining order, which meant that the order had been elevated. And so Judge Wine had come down with a ruling again for Wyatt Tarrant Combs and Brown and Williamson and the tobacco industry. And I couldn't speak.
You learned later that someone else had the same CID.
Yes, I did learn years later. I learned that a CID was ordered for Jeffrey Wigand.
Oh.
And Jeffrey Wigand.
What was it?
It was the same. It was the same matter. It was fire-safe cigarettes, and I did read his deposition, which is on file in Louisville, Kentucky. That is.
So his CID was about the same thing.
Yeah, it was on the Moakley hearing, and
Who were his lawyers?
Well, this is a really interesting part of the Jeffrey Wigand story, which hasn't been told, I don't think, but he had been caught before I had been enjoined by by Wyatt Tarrant Combs and made to sign, or I don't think it was under duress, because he didn't know what was going to go on, and he certainly had no idea that I was going to be making it out, so to speak. And the cold, the spy coming out from the cold, he didn't know this until September 29th, and it hit the papers 2 days later. So, where our paths were crossing, were pretty much along the lines of maybe he was talking to somebody as well. I don't know, but certainly but he signed a confidentiality agreement, which was very similar to the one that I had, if not the same. But he also had a CID from, but they caught him. Let me go back. They caught him. The Brown and Williamson people caught him, and I'll get to the answer on this, and made him conform to accepting lawyers. I assume he was not forced to do this other than by reason of survival. But anyway, he signed this decree where he would be lawyered up by the industry. And to read the deposition, you realize that the fire-safe cigarette was interesting. It's on its own. But now I had a temporary injunction in January, and then at the point of the Justice Department coming in.
So this is my question. Did the Justice Department try to intervene in allowing you to speak to them concerning the CID?
Well, yeah, they did. And the Justice Department came into and had a hearing scheduled, but they came late. And the Justice Department, headed by a name I can't forget, Reginald Tom, came, and we had a strategy to try. It was four lawyers from the Justice Department, one from Louisville and 3 from Washington, all with Joseph Banks suits, very nicely dressed guys, nice suits, and and Alan Morrison was there, and his strategy and Fox's strategy was basically to get Judge Wine and say, look, you can lift this for a little bit, lift this temporary restraining order, and let him talk to these people about fire-safe cigarettes. And so this happened on March the 31st of 1994. here's the situation. We're in a back room and we're strategizing about this. And that's where the story has to end, or I'm going to close.